So I currently started a new project, and this project is basically trying to consolidate all the jobs into one place. And as you can see in my app, there's category and location. Category is the job title, and then location is just different city names in the US. And when you hit search, you'll see the results of all the jobs that's in the database. And if you log in, then you're able to bookmark different jobs. And the reason I created this app is currently trying to look for a new job and noticed that I've been going to multiple different places like Indeed and LinkedIn to job search. So I thought I can just put all the jobs into one place. All right, so let's go over the high level diagram. All the services are containerized. So I deploy everything through a Docker. The front end is built using React, and the back end is Django API. The web server is Nginx. Basically, when the web client is talking to my application, Nginx, it's gonna determine where to route the request to, whether if that's going to React to get the static HTML files, or it's gonna go through GUnicorn and then route the request to Django API. And the database I'm using is just a SQLite, since that's built in with Python. So let's talk about the workflow of how my application works. So there's a few different ways of doing web scraping and displaying the web scrape data to the user. So I think the first way that I was thinking is that the user is able to enter the job title and location. Basically, they can enter the search criteria, and then it would trigger, when they hit search, it would trigger the scraper. Then the scraper is gonna grab the HTML file from Indeed and do processing and get the job related data. And then we're going to return that data back to the UI. Some pros to this approach is that you can basically search all the jobs that you want. Cons would be it's going to take a long time to scrape jobs. So that means it's going to take a while for the data to come back to the UI. And then another approach, which is the approach that I went with, is basically having a Chrome job that triggers the API endpoint, and that API is going to scrape Indeed, right? And then process the data, then store that in the database. And then the UI is gonna call a different API, say fetch. Then fetch is going to go to the database, grab all the necessary data that matches the search criteria, and that's going to return the data back to the UI. And the reason I did this is because the app is stable, and because we're managing our own database. Since we're managing our own database, that means we will always have data in our database. So if Indeed make a change to their UI, then our scraper breaks, we will still have data, and we still can fetch data from database. Some of the cons would be that we now need to keep updating the database, and we need to have a cron job, right? We need to have a cron job to frequently update our database, and we need to have ways to overcome getting blocked by Indeed or other job sources. Some of the issue that I ran into is when I do scraping, it takes a long time to scrape, and since I'm triggering it through an API, and that API is getting routed by Nginx, then Nginx will time out. To overcome this challenge right now, I am setting the timeout to be a very large value, and I'm hoping the Nginx will not be timing out. And also, I need to use user agents in Selenium to overcome getting blocked. So the goal is to possibly send the scraper to a task queue, maybe, to a task queue, so that my actual API endpoint won't time out, and the task queue will basically take care of scraping. So how I deploy this web application, like I said, I deploy it through Docker, And how I set up my project is I have 3 repositories, 3 repos. One is for front end, one repo is for back end. And then the third repo is basically all the Nginx configurations. So in this repo here, I will basically clone the repos down. And also I have all this hooked up using GitLab CI/CD. So correction, so CI/CD is doing the cloning of the front and back end, and then using Nginx to serve the, using Nginx as a web server. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.